I am Arthur, King of the Britons.
I don't know why we sort of find the heroes that we do, but for me, those guys are why I do what I do.
If we were the people we are now, we wouldn't have even tried. But we didn't know better.
We hadn't seen any other movies like this before, so we wanted to try it and see whether it works.
Monty Python television shows had been broadcast on American television, and then Pythons had done a compilation called Now for Something Completely Different, which was released in the theaters, but was really only a compilation of skits.
Well, Python at that point, we were doing very well. And we were the beneficiaries of these draconian tax laws. We were very popular with pop groups. So Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin were looking for tax relief.
We went away for a month and thought about it. I suggested doing it all in the Middle Ages. To my surprise, everybody else agreed.
Terry Jones, when we started Python, said, oh, wouldn't it be nice if the shows wouldn't have punchlines on the sketches? Because once you cut the punchline off, now you're now moving into scenes as opposed to sketches. Individual nights can tell different tales. We can throw it together that way and give this illusion that it's a proper narrative.
How do two people who've never directed a film before in their lives direct a film? Well,
Terry and I were determined to prove that we were film directors with very little qualifications.
We had to film very fast. I directed one day, and then Terry directed the other day.
We begin, and then everything, of course, goes wrong. I remember the very first scene we shot was in Glencoe, and we'd built the Bridge of Death. Terry and I, our first proper movie, our first shot, ready to go, everybody's in costume, and
camera sheared its gears, and the only sync camera we had.
Oh, come on.
And there we were stuck in this fantastic location without a camera to work, but we managed to get through the first day. And after that, I guess there was no stopping us, even though many things tried to.
I'll wave my private parts at your aunties.
But it's more popular in America than it is over here.
The mid-70s is a real period of transition for Hollywood. Monty Python had such a lasting impact because they were foreigners, were allowed to break taboos where American comedians wouldn't have.
Thank me, and thank me, and me, and me. Yes, yes, you must give us all a good thank you.
I guess the great influences for us, besides Mel Brooks, it was Pasolini. This is what we were trying to do, something as believable as a Pasolini film or a Bergman film. And out of that, the comedy is richer.
The deadpan and the gravitas that they bring to the most ridiculous circumstances is what makes it funny. The commitment to reality makes the silly performances like just that much more transcendent.
I think the one that first got your attention was The Black Knight.
Tis but a scratch. A scratch? Your arm's off. No, it isn't.
The arms being chopped off and the guy being just a torso in the end.
All right. We'll call it a draw.
You were like laughing but also kind of terrified at the same time, and it sort of added to the whole experience.
You're using coconut. So?
And we couldn't afford horses, and that's why we had the coconuts.
Which is actually much funnier. So now, to try to balance the absurdity of a page running around behind a knight pretending to be in a real world is a very odd and weird juxtaposition, and it worked.
It's a kind of British humor that's very dark, and just the audacity of, here's a comedy where you get unbelievable numbers of people dying. This kind of humor was not something Americans were used to, but they liked it.
After Sir Lancelot murders everyone at the family banquet, Lancelot's like, I'm really sorry we murdered everybody. The Land Baron says to Lancelot,
let's not bicker and argue about who killed who.
There's like 50 dead people strewn about this castle.
From the beginning, I loved this line reading.
There are some who call me Tim?
Why does he ask that as a question? What's with the pause, and why is it a question?
It's just so silly. A 5-year-old is gonna love it, and an 80-year-old is gonna love it, and everyone in between.
Shut up! Will you shut up? Now we see the violence inherent in the system.
It's just an insane mishmash of cultural satire.
Wait a minute. You can be that outrageous and that silly. You can be a grown man and that out of your mind. They seem to be acting like I did when I was an 11-year-old, and yet they were getting away with it, and it was hilarious.
We just did what we wanted to do, which made us laugh. Somehow certain things hit the mark. So I've never tried to analyze comedy. I just felt it was funny. It worked.
Hollywood loves winners. And this film made a lot of money, and so after that, Hollywood producers were willing to think about other comedians who had things to say, and it didn't have to be necessarily this narrative tied up all in one package.
There's a long wake behind that boat of so many movies that came after it and just have a little bit of an easier path.
And like after that, you're like, well, can never go back to before that. Won't settle for some kind of silly, half-thought-out version of comedy.
It's part of a continuum. We take what inspired us and we change it and make it work for our time and ourselves. And then somebody comes along after us and does the same thing. It's what creative people do.